Favorite, and I'm presenting my final exam for CPSC 5340-A01 for summer 2024 at Auburn University. If you'll look here, I've created an anime repo app. The anime repo app is essentially a API call to Jikan database ran by my anime lists. I'll go ahead and sign out. This is an old account. So currently I don't have an account. I'll go ahead and create an account. Let's try to say Jim and just hit register. You'll notice it's an invalid email. So let's do jim@gmail.com and give Jim some jarbled characters for his password. And well, that doesn't work. It wants to have a password of at least 8 characters, one upper, one lower, and one special. So let's handle that real quick. Alright, and it's going to automatically log us in. You'll be presented with a sign out button, your email at the top, the name of the anime, the title, and which places that you can place that anime. So if I click into the anime, you can see a description of the anime. We can add the anime to the watching list. We can add an anime to completed, an anime to ignore, and an anime to plan to watch. Let's just say you wanted to add a bunch, like you were impatient, you just started clicking multiple times. It pauses for a second. The reason it does that is because in the past it would try to give that anime multiple times because the database was the database gets called and it couldn't produce the next anime fast enough. So I had to add a debounce. This debounce task here basically just lets me know if I can save, and it'll wait 0.75 seconds after every click. So let's say here we want to look at our anime that we just added, and you can see them in each list. So what's different about the list from my anime list view? If I click into a list, a Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, I see the picture, I see the title, and the description. So realize that I added this to completed list, but I didn't actually complete this anime. I want to move it, so let's move it over to the watching list. Now completed is empty, and it's on the watching list. Let's say we want to take Gintama and say we have completed that one. Let's move that to the completed list. You'll see it's automatically updated. We want to take one and add it to the ignore list. Let's ignore Shingeki no Kyojin. And successfully ignored Steins Gate. We've actually planned to watch it, so let's move it to the plan to watch. So you can move from any view to another view just fine. You can see the description, you can interact initially, everything that you would want. Let's go ahead and close the app out and reload the app. So when we reload the app, it should automatically put us in that sign-in state because we never clicked the sign out button. So when we reload, you'll still see that Jim's signed in, and you'll see a brief loading screen. The reason that does that is because when I was using my environment variables, I didn't know that you couldn't use environment variables inside of all view models. This was the biggest issue that I had, and it took me several days to figure this out. So what I wound up doing was I passed the environment objects around so that I had an instance that I could continuously work with. And I created a setup function in each of my view models that took in that instance. Because if I use it as an observed object inside of my view models, it would say it's an observed object, but it's actually creating another instance, so it didn't have any of my data. With that being said, the setup function pretty much helped save all that, and all the setup function is really simple. It's just assigning a variable, and the declaration at the top is not instantiating the view model to anything, and it just makes it optional, so you can get here if you don't have it. Moving on to my fetch data function. My fetch data function goes ahead and looks at the user instance to grab a page, creates a URL off of that page, and it reaches out to the Jikan database to decode the data from JSON and place it into results data, and then it'll increment the next anime. The next anime looks at the user interface variable. It's right down here. It says we want to check if it's the first anime in our anime data set. If so, we don't want to increment the current index of our anime data at all. But if so, if we've already incremented and we've reached 25, we want to up the page so that we can make the next database call to the next page, because I didn't understand how to use pagination. I tried, didn't work for me. This wound up working. We're going to set the current index back to 0, and we're going to refetch the data again. We want to do that as long as Jikan still has data. And then once we're through, we're going to update the current anime that we're displaying using that current index variable we used before. As used, just checks to see if it's used in any list. Update user fields just lets me know if I can save, and it updates the user database inside of Firebase. Switch lists is the functionality I was showing you earlier, which is where I was switching anime from list to list. It just checks and it removes it at an index, and then it adds it back to the end of the list. If it removes it from the index that it's at, adds it to the end of the other list that it's going to. Auth view model, I did wind up having some trouble with authentication. The trouble that I had with authentication was that I didn't realize I needed to track both passwords. So in my login, as my sign up view, there's this on change. I was only tracking the on change for one password field. I have to do it for both. Otherwise, when I first typed in my password, it would always tell me that one of my passwords were wrong because I wasn't doing the password match for both of them, or validate password for both of them. With that being said, now that I'm doing for both of them, password match just equals, password equals password 2. That lets me sign up without any kind of trouble. One thing I did learn was in my main view. Sorry, that wasn't my main view. It was it's one of these views. There we go. Oh, it's not that. Anime detailed view. Here we go. Presentation mode is an environment variable that's baked in called presentation mode. You can use that to dismiss whatever screen that you're currently on. That was another thing I had to learn. It wasn't too hard, very simple. With that being said, the loading screen was the biggest issue because no matter what, when it loaded up my tab views, it wouldn't have all of my data. So I essentially had to create a loading screen to get all the data and then move that data to another screen, or then move to another screen so that it would have time to load the data. Otherwise, it would just load a spinning cogwheel where the image is and never have any kind of title. That being said, that's pretty much the entire use of the app. I'll show you if I close the app out and reload the app. You will notice that you're still logged in because I never pressed the sign out button. And it still puts you back at the same location you were. So I can go ahead and sign out too. That's the thing. On top of that, this is just here so that I can compare my data for the switch list. It just makes it equatable. It becomes identifiable by mapping ID to the mal ID up here that comes from Jikan's database. The only thing that I wasn't really sure about me doing right was creating my anime model, because I have multiple structs to support the anime model, but I had all those structs inside of one file. That's something that I could probably improve. What would I want to do to actually improve the app? Let's go ahead and log Jim back in so I can show you. Alright, I'll log Jim back in. I would basically make a button here for a random anime, because right now it's just currently pulling from the top anime list, so to do 25, then 25 through 50, then 50 through 75 from Jikan's database from their top anime list. I would like to have a random one because I've seen a lot of those top anime. Another thing I'd like to add is for users to be able to see other users so they can compare to their friends, essentially creating a friends list of sorts. One thing that really bothered me was this was too large, and I didn't, every time I changed it, it seemed to not work the way that I wanted it to, so I just left it the same because it didn't look too bad. Other than that, that's pretty much the entire app. Thanks for watching.